Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the United States of America, where one of the most important meetings of the 21st century took place. I would like to remind you that yesterday on the territory of Washington we could see the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Finnish President Alexander Stubb, French President Emmanuel Macron, the Chancellor of Germany Olaf Scholz, and of course the President of the United States of America Donald Trump and the President of Ukraine Zelensky. Very important meeting took place on the territory of White House, and the Western countries were trying to understand whether they are ready to accept the agreements that were reached by the United States of America and the Russian Federation during the Alaska summit. As we discussed in the previous video, the meeting was cut into several pieces, and the first part was the meeting between Zelensky and the President of the United States of America. They were talking just around 1 hour, and the sources are saying that this map of Ukraine was established in the Oval Office. A large map of Ukraine was installed in the Oval Office before the start of the closed-door talks between Trump and Zelensky. The map was placed opposite the table where Trump and Zelensky were sitting as soon as the media were asked to leave the office. At the same time, the former eastern regions of Ukraine on the map are shaded in pink, showing the territories controlled by Russia. Later, another photo was published. Here we can see the President of Ukraine and the President of the United States of America that were talking right in front of this map, most likely, where they were talking about possible exchange of territories between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. Later, Zelensky stated that he was explaining Trump who exactly controls this or that territory and what is the exact situation along the line of combat contact. Right after this meeting, the European leaders joined the talks between the President of Ukraine and the President of the United States of America, and they were talking a lot about ceasefire, they were talking a lot about children, they were talking about security guarantees. So a lot of talks. Telling the truth, Trump had very strong position during this meeting, and when talking about European leaders, sometimes I had a feeling that they didn't realize or didn't understand what exactly they were doing there in the Oval Office. First of all, it concerns the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, and of course the Ursula von der Leyen. After this meeting, both the Ukrainians and Americans made their own statements regarding the situation, and the most important that is also during this meeting, the President of the United States of America suddenly interrupted this meeting, and he called Putin, most likely to give him an answer whether the Ukrainians and the European countries accepted the deal that they managed to achieve on the Alaska summit. I just spoke to President Putin indirectly, and we're going to have a phone call right after these meetings today, and we may or may not have it relate. So the most important that, according to information we have right after this meeting, lots of Zelensky, Russia, and Western countries changed their positions regarding some questions and issues. Zelensky, right after this meeting, made his statements. Russia requested a meeting between the leaders of Russia and Ukraine, and then a trilateral meeting with Trump. Ukraine will not insist on a ceasefire as a condition for further talks. The issue of territories will be discussed only between me and Putin. The details of security guarantees for Ukraine will be worked out within 10 days. Thus, in order to hold the meeting with Putin, Zelensky abandoned the demands of ceasefire. So this is very important, and this situation tells us that the Russian Federation, the President of the Russian Federation, first of all, recognizes Zelensky as a legitimate President of Ukraine, which is very important. The key points from Trump's statements at the meeting with European leaders and Zelensky, let's also discuss this. Trump said that Alaska summit strengthened his belief in the possibility of achieving peace in Ukraine. He stressed the need to discuss a potential territorial exchange between Russia and Ukraine Trump expressed confidence that Putin and Zelensky can find common ground to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. He said that he does not believe in the threat of further Russian aggression against Ukraine. Trump voiced confidence that a three-way meeting on Ukraine with Putin and Zelensky will take place. The only question is when. Probably this is not the only question is when. The question is where this meeting can take place. Also very important. Currently, the sources are saying that Italy and Rome is the possible place where this meeting can take place. Some sources are saying about Hungary, that this state also can be used as a base for this meeting. But if you ask my opinion, I'm not sure that the president of the Russian Federation will enter the airspace of NATO and will not fly around Ukraine, because who knows what Zelensky can do in this case if he has possibilities to bring down Russian aircraft with air defense system. I believe that the meeting between the president of Ukraine and the president of the Russian Federation and the president of the United States of America will take place on the territory of the Republic of Belarus, because too many signals, too many signs, too many messages and statements were made by the president of the United States of America regarding this country. He was talking about prisoners release. He called Lukashenko and they talked to each other. So a lot of signals are telling us that maybe Belarus will be chosen as the base and platform for some talks, or some probably level or some part of talks between Russia and Ukraine and the United States of America. So let's wait and see what is going to be next. But I would like to remind you that according to Trump, he expects that this meeting between Zelensky and Putin may take place before the end of August. So let's wait and see. There are just, let's say, 12 days left before the end of this month. Now let's discuss the situation in Ukraine. We have lots of very interesting updates. First, let's take a look at this video. The pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see the first usage of Ukrainian 3,000 kilometers long-range missile. So this is Ukrainian missile that they still haven't used in, let's say, in war with the Russian Federation, but most likely they can use this missile during the next 10 days when both the Russians and the Ukrainians will try to get as better as possible negotiation positions. As another important thing that Trump, Zelensky and the Russian Federation and the Western countries agreed that there are going to be no ceasefire, that war will continue until the last day, until the day when the signatures of Putin, Zelensky and Trump or any other countries will be established, installed on the final paper, on the final document of the peaceful settlement of the conflict. Which means that the next stage of the special military operation is going to be the most aggressive probably and the most intensified, both from the Russian and from the Ukrainian side. Everybody will try to get as better as possible positions. The Russians, of course, will try to defeat the Ukrainians completely in the rest of Donetsk region. Probably the Russians will create some problems and sometimes threats towards the siege of Zaporizhzhia. We will understand this during the next months. Furthermore, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians carry out massive missile and drone strike, and the sources are saying that the Russians attacked the city of Kremenchuk and Kremenchuk oil refinery. So this is the video that we can see this morning of the 19th of August of 2025. The sources are saying that the Russians damaged significantly Kremenchuk oil refinery, so this facility. The Ukrainians used the situation to blame the Russians once again that they're ruining the negotiation process in Washington, but I would like to point to attention that currently there is something like a small war between Russia, Ukraine and Azerbaijan regarding energy facilities. The Russians during the previous days destroyed energy facilities in the area of Odessa that belonged to the Azerbaijani companies who has some affiliations with the president of Azerbaijan. As a response to this attack and as a response to this, let's say, destruction and huge losses, the Ukrainians attacked the territory of the Russian Federation and pipeline, Druzhba pipeline, that European countries still can use or use to supply, to get oil from the Russian Federation. I would like to remind you that a day ago, Slovakia stated that Ukraine attacked attacked the pipeline that they use, not the pipeline, but Hungary. Budapest has accused Ukraine of yet another strike on the pipeline supplying Hungary, forcing deliveries to stop. And today we got report from Ukrainian sources that they destroyed this pipeline completely. So this is exactly satellite images of destroyed Druzhba oil pipeline have been published. Pumping of oil from Russia to Hungary and Europe has been completely stopped. Ukrainians reported that they managed to deal significant damage to this facility, and as a response to this damage, the Russians attacked Ukrainian facility in the area of Kremenchuk. Obviously, these attacks will continue because now the ball, or let's say the turn to make a decision on Ukrainian side, and most likely these upcoming days Ukrainians will counterattack once again. So I'm not sure about any peaceful settlement of the conflict. I see that both the Russians and the Ukrainians are not ready for any talks, for any peace agreement. Furthermore, we still haven't seen Ukrainian new missiles. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. We have very interesting changes. According to information we have, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians improved their positions in the area of the settlement of Olgovskaya. The Russians took under complete control additional territories, and currently almost 50% of the village of Olgovskaya is already colored as a gray zone or contested area. And telling the truth, we believe that this is exactly the area that the commander-in-chief of the armored force was talking about when he was talking about another Russian full-scale offensive operation in the Zaporizhzhia direction. I would like to remind you that this area is very active, and this area has become active probably week or 2 or 3 weeks ago, when the Russians began their offensive operation towards the villages of Andreevka, Klivtsova, over the settlement of Alexandergrad, over the villages of Yanvarska and Vorona. And now we see that the Russians continue their offensive, and it seems that this is exactly the Russian Zaporizhzhia offensive operation. We understand that most likely the Russians will not attack Zaporizhzhia from the south. The Russians will attack the Zaporizhzhia direction from the east, trying to move in the western direction and so to flank the settlements of Orekhov and Gulyai-Polye from the north, and to take Ukrainians and to encircle Ukrainians in these cities and in these strongholds. So this might be probably an offensive for the later stage of negotiation process between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. Now let's move further and let's talk about the situation in the Zaporizhzhia direction, where the Russians also continue their offensive operation. During the previous 24 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded in the Russian favor. So let's compare the map between the dates. For example, this is the situation by the end of the 18th of August of 2025, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 19th of August of 2025. The armored force of the Russian Federation managed to improve their positions to the east of Kucherov Yar. We came to this conclusion based on the video that was published by the Ukrainian sources. Here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking positions of the armored force of the Russian Federation with multiple launch rocket systems. This episode took place exactly in this point. A bit further in the southern direction, we have additional changes on the ground in the direction of the settlements of Shakhovo, Vladimirovka. So the Russians came to conclusion that they have no chances to take these territories under complete control and to move further deep inside of the Donetsk region without taking under control these 4 settlements. And here we can see lots of videos of how Ukrainians were trying to slow down Russian advance on the ground. So, but despite Ukrainian attempts, the map has been adjusted, and the Russians, we see, are getting closer and closer to the settlements of Sofievka, Shakhovo, Vladimirovka from the east. The most important updates are coming from the Konstantinovka direction. Today, as you can see, the map was adjusted significantly. This is the situation by the end of the 18th of August of 2025, and yesterday several very reliable neutral and pro-Russian resources reported that as a result of clashes, the Russians improved their position significantly, and the armored force of the Russian Federation entered the southeastern part of the settlement of Konstantinovka. Today, several sources adjusted their maps based on this report. So these are the changes that were shown by very reliable pro-Russian resources. And according to these reports, the Russians indeed entered the southeastern part of the settlement of Konstantinovka, and the Russians managed to take former positions of the armed forces of Ukraine along Seversky Donetsk-Donbas canal. Basically, the Ukrainians most likely abandoned these positions due to risk of being encircled by the Russians. Currently, the Ukrainians are trying to stabilize the situation, or we can't say that they're trying to stabilize. It's better to use words like Ukrainians are trying to slow down the Russians in the vicinity of Alexandra Shultina. But due to this critical situation, we believe that the Ukrainians will not be able to do this, to hold the situation like this for a very long period of time. And most likely during upcoming days, Ukrainians would be forced to abandon their positions in this area and to begin the defense operation of the city of Konstantinovka itself. So very interesting details are coming from this area. The Russians, due to the fact that they entered the city of Konstantinovka, can try to advance very fast because the main forces in the vicinity of Konstantinovka were deployed to the Pokrovsk direction to stabilize the situation. Now most likely Ukrainians suffer some shortage of manpower. As for the Sivas direction, nothing special. The Liman and the Kupinsk directions, nothing special as well. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.